Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Greg Sloop, and it's time for Live at 5 on this Thursday, January 2nd, 2025, second day of the new year. And we're on the second day of our journey through the New Testament in Matthew chapter 2. Yesterday, we talked about the genealogy of Christ and the dream of Joseph. Now, today, we're talking about the visit of the wise men after Jesus was born and the first credible threat to the life and ministry of Jesus while he was on earth. Let's start in Matthew chapter 2, verse 1. Now, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. So they said to him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, are not least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. So the wise men come and they're asking, Where can we find this king? We have come and followed his star, and we want to come worship him. Then Herod got nervous. Herod was a king of Judea. And it's just a sign of how Jesus' birth had such an effect on the whole earth. His birth, Jesus' birth, caused a disruption in the fabric of the whole earth. It sent ripples through all of life and humanity. Everybody heard about Jesus. And the wise men were probably observers of the skies, ancient astronomers. They saw the star, they saw its movement, and they followed it. And they had a sense that there was a king of the Jews out there somewhere who they wanted to go and pay homage to. And when they did, they met up with Herod. They they had an inkling that something wasn't right. We'll talk about all that in just a few moments, but let's go now to verse 7. Again, before we do that, though, this was fulfillment of a prophecy that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem, and out of Bethlehem would come a ruler. Verse 7 then. This is Herod's scheme and the Magi's visit. Then Herod, when he had secretly called the wise men, determined from them what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, Go and search carefully for the young child. And when you have found him, bring back word to me that I may come and worship him also. When they heard the king, they departed. And behold, the star which they had seen in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. And when they had come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented gifts to him, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Then, being divinely warned in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed for their own country another way. Now, this exchange explains Herod asking about what they had seen and where they were headed. And he told them, When you find him, come back and tell me about it. Now, Herod did not want to know that just so he could come and worship. He said that was his rationale, but that was not really what he was looking for. He wanted to come and find out if he was a threat. And if he was a threat, he wanted to eliminate the threat. They went to visit the king, Jesus. They were warned in a dream not to go back to Herod. They gave Jesus gifts and they went on their way. Here's some points to ponder. Herod's paranoia was on full display in this story. He heard the announcement of another king being born and saw it as a direct threat to his reign. Even though he was only a baby, he saw it as a threat. So he created a ruse to get information about the location of this king so he could destroy the competition. In the meantime, the kings or the Magi went to visit the young King Jesus and worshiped him and offered presents of great value to the child king: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. They discerned Herod's schemes and did not go back to reveal the location of the king, for God did not want them to. God was not ready for Herod to have knowledge of the location of Christ. So when they left, they went another way and never went back to Herod. And that was a good thing for Jesus. The next section talks about their flight into Egypt. This is a strange piece of the story for me. I've always wondered, why in the world would Jesus go to Egypt, or why did he need to come out of Egypt? But God knew what was coming, as he knows what's coming anytime something happens in our lives. He's not caught off guard. He's not taken by surprise. God knows what's happening in our lives. Verse 13 of chapter 2 of Matthew says, "Now when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, take the young child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there until I bring you word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night, and departed for Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt I called my son." Another prophecy fulfilled in the life of Jesus Christ. Now, something that's interesting for us to think about here is the fact that the wise men probably didn't come right after Jesus was born. They saw a star, they traveled, they'd been going for quite some time. When they didn't go back to Herod, Herod decided to have all the Jewish babies up to 2 years of age, the boys anyway, killed, because that would take care of the competition. I'm telling you, Herod was a bloodthirsty, cutthroat type of man. And when he found out that about 2 years is how long it would have been since Jesus was born, he made sure to kill off all the competition that could possibly be alive in Israel. So, this wasn't a beautiful time. It was a time of danger. It was a time of death and destruction and pain. Points to ponder. In order to save Jesus from the threat of Herod, God warned Joseph in a dream to take Jesus to Israel. And again, it also proved to fulfill a prophecy that the Son of God would be called out of Egypt, or the Messiah would be called out of Egypt. The latter parts of this chapter talk about what happened after Jesus and Joseph and Mary left, and then how they came back. Let's talk about those. Verse 16 of chapter 2. "Then Herod, when he saw that he was deceived by the wise men, was exceedingly angry, and sent forth and put to death all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in all its districts from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had determined from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet," another prophecy being fulfilled. "A voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation, weeping, and great mourning. Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted, because they are no more." These children being killed was a fulfillment of that prophecy by Jeremiah, and one more instance where God fulfilled his prophecies in the life of Jesus Christ. Points to ponder about this. Joseph's dream was warranted by all means, as Herod went on a rampage, ordering all these children 2 and under to be killed in his region, who were born in Bethlehem and the surrounding areas. This was just almost genocide, infanticide. It was terrible. And this massacre also fulfilled that prophecy in Jeremiah about children being killed among the Jews in these days of sorrow. So finally, Jesus returns to Nazareth, not Bethlehem, but Nazareth. Luke 2 through 39 is a parallel passage, but here in Matthew 2:19 it says, "Now when Herod was dead," we don't know the exact timing of that. We could probably discern it through some extra biblical resources. "But when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Arise, take the young child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the young child's life are dead." Then he arose, took the young child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel. You'll notice that in the verses previous to that, it said when the wise men came, they saw the young child. They didn't see the baby. They didn't see the infant. They saw the young child. That is an indication that he was a little older. Verse 22, "But when he heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea instead of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there," talking about Joseph now. "And being warned by God in a dream, he turned aside into the region of Galilee. And he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets, He shall be called a Nazarene." Well, just a few years later, after they left to go to Egypt, Herod had died. Joseph was again visited in a dream and given the clearance to return to Nazareth, where Joseph and Mary's life would settle in. They did not go back to Judea because Archelaus, Herod's son, reigned in his place. And this action of going to Nazareth, where Jesus would be called a Nazarene, would fulfill another prophecy spoken by the prophets. He was from Nazareth. He was therefore a Nazarene. Well, all of this talks about the threats to Jesus' life. Satan did not want Jesus to raise up and be the Messiah. He didn't want him to be the answer to the sin problem of the world. He didn't want him to be available through the gospel of Christ to all of us today. Satan wanted him dead. Herod tried to live out that order of Satan, and it did not work, but it could have. But I'm so glad it didn't. God was in control. God protected Jesus. God protected Joseph and Mary. And he was able to perform the things that were spoken of him hundreds of years before through the prophets. And we have salvation today because of this occurrence in the life of Jesus Christ. This second chapter of Matthew shows us how much God intended for us to be blessed by the life of Jesus and to be saved by his sacrifice. And that's the word for today. Now, I'm at a funeral today, so this is not live. I apologize to you that this is recorded on the second day of the year, but this is a funeral I want to go to. I need to be involved with. And I hope you'll put those comments, questions, comments, any kind of feedback you have in the chat feature, and I'll look at it later and respond to you. I promise.